is the center of your life. It is everything you hear, everything you see, everything you feel. It is everything you are. How would you know if someone stole your mind?
Arrest that woman!
Quaid.
Cut.
Get ready for a surprise!
We can't let him run around. He knows too much. They've got your bug.
I got a lock.
There!
And the bug's in your skull.
Take this thing out of the case and stick it up your nose. Don't worry, it's self-guiding.
Got him.
I lost him.
Welcome to Mars.
You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here.
Look who's talking.
They erased your identity and implanted a new one.
If I'm not me, who the hell am I?
He's got a hologram!
Welcome to Johnny Cab.
Drive!
Where can I take you tonight? Please fasten your seatbelt. I want Quaid delivered alive for reimplantation.
That's for making me come to Mars. You wouldn't hurt me. After all, we're married.
Consider that a divorce.
We hope you enjoyed the ride.
Welcome to the Film Hole Podcast. I'm your host, Trevor. Been a while, but anyways, we're back for some amount of time.
Really up to date on our new releases then.
This week we're talking about a 1992 movie. So we've really thrown any sort of timely relevance into the wind.
92. Were you born in 92?
I was born the same year that this movie was born.
Nice.
And my social security number is
I haven't had this much fun since we used to ride in your first car, black Honda Civic.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I just have this story about my mother's maiden name that I wanted to tell you. Could that possibly be?
Oh, Trevor, you're my best childhood friend.
We just are each
That's
other's.
always one of them, yeah.
Basic
Have you seen this
instinct.
movie before?
No. I'm going to read the synopsis of it really quick,
Okay.
and then we can discuss if we think it's accurate. A former rock star, Johnny Boz, right? That's how you say it.
Oh,
Johnny
sorry,
Boz.
dude. I'm just realizing this. I did not watch this movie.
You didn't watch this movie?
I didn't get a chance to. The night I said I was going to, I didn't get a chance to.
Oh, well, why didn't you tell me that?
I thought we were doing that other movie.
What other movie? Total Recall?
Yeah, Total Recall.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
We should still release.
I was fully ready to talk about this movie. Did you watch Total Recall? Have you seen Total Recall?
I did watch Total Recall.
Okay. Recently or just
I was looking at this and I'm like, it's a 2-word title, and my brain didn't even register that it wasn't the same movie.
I said the words Basic Instinct a few times.
Yeah.
Already.
And I was looking up Basic Instinct earlier because it was on topic.
Huh.
Let's put this out as the Basic Instinct episode, and just 3 minutes in, it'll be for a completely different movie.
Well, we could make the decision to leave that little exchange in the recording.
Sure.
And then continue to talk about Total Recall. Or another funny way to spin it is that we re-release just 60 seconds of audio for Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct Part 1.
Part 1. We should do, I mean, since you suggested it, I think that I had some questions specific to you about the movie, so now I'm a little unprepared for Total Recall. But we should do Basic Instinct, like maybe next week or something when you've had time to watch it.
Sure. That's great. So you're completely thrown off.
Yeah, completely.
Just completely unprepared now.
I mean, I didn't do too much prep. I'm very familiar
You
with
just
Total
watched
Recall.
that one scene over and over again.
What scene?
The Basic Instinct, the chair scene.
Chairs?
I mean, that's the only scene that I know about it. The famous one, with the legs.
Yes.
The erotic scene. You know how actually
Yes.
Basic Instinct came up again recently, and we were going to watch it prior to any of our discussion about it because we saw it come up in The Sopranos.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I think it was like in Chris's apartment, and they were watching the chair scene.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it was a phenomenon, that movie, for that reason.
It brought me back to that time period where I remember in that time period, 2004 or 5, which is much later than the movie came out, but nonetheless, it was in the culture, that scene.
Yeah.
Kind of like older kids would talk about it. And
yeah, pre-internet, it served like a purpose, the same kind of purpose that Titanic served for a while. My friend would like sneak a VHS tape out of his parents' room, like during sleepovers, for Titanic, maybe this movie too, Basic Instinct.
Oh, for the nudity?
Yeah, for the nudity.
Yeah.
Yes, for the nudity. Okay, so Total Recall. Let's switch gears here to the other Verhoeven movie. Came out in 1990, so just 2 years prior to what we were just talking about. And the synopsis is Douglas Quaid, played by Schwarzenegger, is haunted by a recurring dream about a journey to Mars. He hopes to find out more about this dream and buys a holiday at Recall Incorporated, where they sell implanted memories. But something goes wrong with memory implantation, and he remembers being a secret agent fighting against the evil Mars administrator, Cohagen. Now the story really begins, and it's a roller coaster ride until the massive end of the movie. What the fuck is this? What kind of synopsis is that? I think that is just a fan-submitted thing. I was on IMDb. Okay.
You know what I'm realizing now?
This sounds a lot better. What?
Trevor, I have an admission to make. I watched Starship Troopers.
Are you serious? Are you fucking with me now? Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's basically it.
I'll give you one more. What I realized I read was just like some fucking jerk off's like submission on this page on IMDb, which I guess you can do now. When a man goes into the virtual vacation of the planet Mars, implanted in his mind, an unexpected and harrowing series of events forces him to go to the planet for real. Or is he?
What did you know about this movie going in?
More preferable. Going in, I mean, I've seen this movie tens of times, probably, so I'm very familiar with it. I think that only recently, whether it was the most recent watch or within the last, 10 years of my life, I felt like I came to a conclusion on what's going on in the movie versus all other times I saw it previously, where I wasn't quite sure if if everything is supposed to be real, or if the whole point of it is that it's an illusion.
Okay.
And that's kind of the point, right? Is it leaves you sort of ambiguous, and you're not really sure what's real. But I remember comically so, for the amount of times that I had seen this movie, if it came up in conversation, I would be like, yeah, man, I've seen Total Recall like 6 or 7 times, and I still don't know if he went to Mars or not, And now I think I do.
You're saying you think you go one direction or the other as to
I think that I generally feel one way about it now. Whether I'm right or not is kind of irrelevant, but in the past I was just I have no idea.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think the movie goes to great lengths to really make you feel confused about it. I think it tries to present itself as pretty transparent. It's not like a Christopher Nolan movie where it's trying to be some sort of mind-bending movie. Mm-hmm. The ambiguity is sort of just a product of the plot. But the way the movie is telling the story, it seems like it should be pretty straightforward.
Okay. So do you think that, he never was a secret agent, basically?
No, I think
it's all a simulation? Oh, so you think that?
I think it's real. I think it's real. I'm sure there's some like theories out there as to the opposite, but there's just a lot of evidence that I mentally logged that I think all kind of point to. It's supposed to be real.
See, by the end of it, I thought the movie was kind of like leaning towards it being the simulation.
Okay. What's your reasoning for that?
Well, like maybe the first reason I'll bring up is just how outlandish the action seems.
Uh-huh.
It's like video game violence.
Uh-huh.
And, it is an 80s movie, but it felt to me that it was kind of like self-aware in its over-the-topness, almost like satire level.
Yeah, that's what Starship Troopers does too.
Yeah.
That movie is like sort of ridiculous on purpose. But is it though? The guy who made it, he's like pretty famously like eccentric and weird.
Yeah.
So there's like part of me that could believe that it's just, I don't think that he thinks it's sincere, but I don't think it could just be like the way that he makes a movie. It might not be like making a choice to be that way. It's just what he likes to do.
We were trying to kind of figure that out, Stacey and I, like, because we expect that level of action and kind of cartooniness. So yeah, we couldn't quite put it together.
If it's a simulation or not, or if if it's genuinely like satirical.
Yeah, both. And like the second would influence my basically what I thought.
Yeah.
But what else do you guys? What else makes you think that it is in fact real?
I mean, you could make the argument that this is like intentional, like misdirection. But if you're just trying to like look at on screen like clues instead of like getting meta about like what seems real and what isn't from like a storytelling perspective, if you're just looking for like clues, like evidence, that scene where he's like an administrator, he's someone who like works for Recall, like comes into the hotel room like with Sharon Stone, and he's like, "Hey, I'm not actually here. Like you're in a
right.
You're still sitting in the Recall chair, and I've been artificially inserted into your brain to try and get you out of here." And like, it's all just like a big bluff because Quaid sees him sweating and like shoots him in the head.
Oh yeah,
and that's like pretty like tactile, like conclusive evidence for like that person was telling a fiction about what was actually going on. But if the movie is as meta as you're saying it is, it could certainly just be that's all part of it. Still a simulation despite that.
Yeah.
And I'm open-minded.
Like we sweat in the simulation.
Yeah, I'm open-minded to it, but I like I don't know if it's trying to go that deep.
Yeah.
When did you see it? Like for this, when did you watch it?
A couple of days ago. Okay. Mm-hmm.
When was the time that you'd seen it prior to that?
I don't think I'd ever fully seen it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is not an 80s movie, just FYI. This is 1990.
Wow. It's a child of the 80s.
Yeah. You can really just think of the 90s as more 80s. An extension
of late 80s.
The late 80s. We said that in another episode or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's interesting. So I have a lot of history of this movie, so I don't really know like where to start. So you having like an initial reaction to it, maybe contextualize the level of awareness you had before, and then what your reaction was to it. Did it exceed your expectation?
Yeah, it definitely exceeded. I never knew that it had this kind of angle, like the main angle of doubting whether or not he is really who the movie puts him out to be.
You thought it was more just like sci-fi action RoboCop kind of
like
thing?
The scene you always see is like the Mars scene and the eyes bulging out when they're in the vacuum of Mars. That's a shot that I had in my memory from who knows when.
Yeah. It's a pretty striking image. It's really upsetting.
Yeah. Dude, lots of the prosthetics and effects on this movie are awesome.
Oh yeah.
Like that stomach twin guy. Yeah, the mutants.
Quado. He's the stomach mutant.
Yeah,
the psychic one. Rick and Morty just had an episode about that.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Rick and Morty's not so great these days. But one of the more recent ones I watched was there's a whole like race of Quados, like that little guy, and all they can say is "open your mind." Like they can't say any other words. And there's like a black market, like organ harvesting market for them. People harvest like Quados from other humans, and then they'll put them on the black market and like artificially install them onto people who do want Quados. Yeah, pretty funny.
So like regular people want the thing sticking out of their abdomen?
Yeah.
They're opting in?
They're opting in. Black market customers. What do you think about like this is something I always thought was interesting is the mutants. There's mutants in other movies, and I guess maybe the X-Men was one of the first to do this, but I always forget that the mutants are like psychic. That psychic powers is sort of just it's a next step for like human evolution. Same thing in like Starship Troopers, where it's just like we're alive or mutating long enough that we just develop psychic powers. That's just like
yeah. They have like that same idea exactly phrased like that. They're like, this may be a new leg in human evolution.
Mm-hmm.
With respects to like the Neil Patrick Harris scenes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that? Just how there's like a weird second class citizen like group of people on Mars who they're all like super like low class and oppressed, but they're also like they're literal like superheroes. Like they can see the future and stuff.
Yeah, they're cool. I love how like they're kind of like in the ghetto area of the solar system.
Yeah. It's funny. This is another reason for you to go play Starfield, because it's kind of reflected in that game.
They have ghetto planets? Like low income poverty whole planets?
Correct.
That's a cool sci-fi idea. I feel like that feels new to me.
Low income planets.
Yeah.
I mean, surely Star Wars had something like that.
Well, like a
right? Tatooine's
like rough and tough.
It's a rural planet. It's like the country.
Which is the one where like the Han Solo shoots that guy under the table?
I think that's still Tatooine. I don't know. But certainly like that concept exists. Ghetto planets in some form or another. I like how in every sci-fi movie that a planet is perfectly summarized by the only settlement that the main characters can go to. We have a whole planet that has like top to bottom every type of like socioeconomic situation, and then like you go to a planet in Star Wars and it's like, oh, the whole planet is like Nebraska, like this whole fucking planet is the same. It's like the most like monoculture place you've ever been.
Right, in terms of like the geology and climate and everything, like ice planet, desert planet, forest planet,
and the people who live there. It's like if you go to Coruscant, that's just like the whole planet is a city, and all the people are this like the same type of people in the city. It's like planets are like much smaller in sci-fi. Is all I'm saying.
There's like no diversity on them.
No.
Well, maybe that's the canon reason that Earth is so cool in the universe. Like, it's people from other planets, they hear about Earth. They're like, they have like deserts, forests, Arctic, all on one planet. It's crazy. It's like a novelty.
Yeah. I've been listening to a lot of Brian Cox like the last week or so. You know who that is?
Yeah, he's like a physicist.
Yeah, like he's a British physicist. He's sort of like British Neil deGrasse Tyson, but like not annoying.
Yeah.
He's nice to listen to. Not quite like Carl Sagan nice, but like I find his voice pleasing and he talks about interesting stuff. But a lot of my content recently has been him talking about us being the only civilization in the solar system and in the galaxy, and how that makes us pretty cool. We got everything here. Quoted someone, when you have like a complex enough organism that it starts exploring the universe. It's like the universe's like way of exploring itself, because we're just like a super like evolved like set of cells, and then we start like thinking about like the fact that we're cells. We're like we're the only thing that does that like nearby.
I've heard the version of that goes more like we are, like humanity is the universe is the universe consciously aware of itself or something like that.
Yeah.
We are of the one and the same with the universe, just like we're a part of that system, and we look at it, think about it.
Yeah. I mean, if we're just like a product of like super complex like evolution over billions of years, we are just like an extension of like the natural process.
Mm-hmm. We're all star stuff, dude.
We're just doing our job, exploring.
But it's cool that in this movie that like that, you know, so Earth is like objectively one of the better of the planets in the solar system. Certainly,
it's the best one. Yeah,
it's the best one. So like it makes sense that the Mars colony would be like poor and oppressed, and they have no rights or anything. And Earth is where all the cool people are at.
Right. I think that at the time might have been some sort of, I don't know, it probably exists in some like older sci-fi, but I feel like that wasn't a super like mainstream interpretation of like other like sci-fi communities. Like if we colonized another planet, immediately that planet would be like more high class than us.
Utopia.
Yeah, it's another planet. We have, who knows the reason why, but like that would just be the impression. So I feel like this movie is sidestepping that expectation by deliberately making it lower class people. And it makes sense. Like it has like a logical reason for why that exists, that it like the planet would have to be like mostly industrial focused, like when you were getting the colony started. So like you would need workers, like laborers, to like get a lot of that stuff going. And it's just like sort of unpleasant. Like the planet is not as habitable as as Earth would be. So it's both like not preferable, and if you're going to colonize it, the main people you need there are just lower class, like blue collar people.
There's a really great show out. You should watch it if you haven't heard of it. It's called Fired on Mars. It's on HBO. It's an animated show.
Fired on Mars.
Luke Wilson is the main voice guy, which I love the way that guy talks. He
sounds like it's just a normal guy. I can't really even think.
Yeah, he's kind of kind of like a dopey guy, just kind of easygoing. You know, he's Owen Wilson's brother, so it's like he has a little bit of that in it. But the show is really cool. The premise is that there's this company on Mars. It's called Mars.ly. So it's kind of got like that douchey tech company vibe.
Kind of like a Bitly, like the URL shortener. Yeah.
And so it's exactly what it is. It's this kind of douchey tech company in space with that kind of culture. And it's in the first episode, Luke Wilson's character, who's a graphic designer with them. You would love it just for that. It's got some like real good.
Is it like last few years?
Yeah.
Cool.
But in the first episode, he gets fired from his job on Mars. And so he's like, well, what happens now? Because like this colony is like the company's colony.
Right, yeah.
If I don't work here. And they're like, it's just like very brutal. They're like, well, like we're going to put you in hibernation. Because like we're not gonna just like you have no money, and we're not gonna let you don't work here.
Wow, that's insane.
It's a pretty fun show.
It's that similar sort of dystopia in Sorry to Bother You, when like in employee housing is like pretty ubiquitous with anyone who is employed. And it makes the premise of that just being on Mars is pretty funny. Huh. Okay, you want me to read a little bit of this Total Recall plot to you? See if anything jumps out.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Do you want to share the screen while you do that?
I'd love to share it. In 2084, Mars is a colonized world under the tyrannical regime of Vilos Cohagen, who controls the mining of valuable turbinium. Is that a real element?
I don't think so.
Okay. Turbinium ore On Earth, construction worker Douglas Quaid experiences recurring dreams about Mars and a mysterious woman. Intrigued, he visits Recall, a company that implants realistic false memories and chooses one set on Mars with a blue sky. Why is that parenthesized there? Is that
I don't know what it's referring to, or I don't know.
Huh?
Do you remember this blue sky bit?
No, but this seems like something added by the user, pretty like tongue in cheek, where he is a Martian secret agent. However, before the implant completed, Quaid lashes out, already thinking he's a secret agent, believing Cohagen's agency has suppressed Quaid's memories. The Recall employees erase evidence of Quaid's visit and send him home. That's paragraph 1.
This reminded me of something. Another reason that I think it might be a simulation is because in the scene when he's at Recall, and fuck, I just kind of want to rewatch the scene, but there is a point where like somebody says to him, they're like explaining to him the secret agent package, and they kind of go through like the whole plot of the movie in broad strokes to him. They're like, you're gonna become like the messiah of the underground before like ultimately returning to like be back on the bad guys side.
Mm-hmm.
They said something like this.
I don't know if they say, I mean, maybe I just don't remember. I don't know if that Messiah bit is in there. I do remember him in broad strokes saying like, rest assured by like the end, you'll have like killed the bad guys, gotten the girl, and something else. And that was like the broad strokes recap of the movie that I remember. But maybe it's more specific than that. The most damning evidence in that sequence for it being a simulation, or whatever evidence in support of it being a simulation, is that they show like a render of a woman in like the preview to like, this is like the simulation you're about to go into. Here's like their love interest. Here's like the character model for her. And it is like the real girl who he meets later. Like the brunette that he has dreamt about. And I think that the movie explains it as like he was dreaming about it, and so it was already like in his brain. And so they were able to read that. Maybe I just made that up. But I think
I remember what you're referring to, yeah.
But the woman just like being there at all is sort of a thing that messes with your interpretation of like, is this real or not? Because if you see her on the computer screen, like why would she be there if she wasn't like an artificial character?
But it is technology that's like inside your brain to a certain extent. So I don't know, like, is it possible that he was hooked up at that point?
It's possible.
You know, it's like a simulation that mixes with you. And so kind of like in the same way that you dream, you're kind of filling it in with
well, that's what he says later on, where they do address, I think it might be in that hotel room scene that I referred to earlier, where the guy from Recall comes in. They mention the girl. They were like, how would that girl be here if it's like the girl that you picked out, like in Recall? Like, how would that person like actually really be here? And he was like, no, I dreamt about her first. Like, I knew who she was before I went to Recall. So that's how I know she's real. Yeah, it still doesn't exactly explain like why she was on the screen in Recall, unless he was like, they were reading his thoughts or something. En route, Quaid is attacked by men led by his colleague Harry because Quaid unknowingly revealed his past. Quaid's instincts take over and kills his assailants. At home, he is assaulted by his wife, Lori, played by Sharon Stone, who is the woman in Basic Instinct. Assaulted by his wife, Lori, who claims she was assigned to monitor Quaid by the agency, and their marriage is a false memory implant. He flees, but is pursued by armed men led by Richard, Cohagen's operative, and Lori's real husband. That's Michael Ironside. He's another Starship Troopers guy. A man who claims to be Quaid's former acquaintance gifts him a suitcase containing supplies and a video recording in which Quaid identifies himself as Hauser, a Cohagen ally who defected after falling in love. According to the recording, Cohagen brainwashed Hauser to become Quaid and conceal his secrets before securing him on Earth. Hauser instructs Quaid to return to Mars and stop Cohagen.
Kind of the initial setup of what will be the rest of the movie. Yeah.
First act, abouts. Yeah, it's where the famous like "Get your ass to Mars" comes from.
What do you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger
As an actor, in general?
Yeah, as a person.
I think he's fascinating. I think that his like story is pretty amazing. He seems like sort of a timeless archetype that has always existed, but he is that alone. He himself is Arnold Schwarzenegger. But like there's so many parodies of him, like, you know, in The Simpsons, the Wolf Castle, I think is his name. There's a version of him in Fairly Odd Parents. I'm sure there's many other just like parody versions of Schwarzenegger. And so for that reason he feels like this larger than life thing. But he's just Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's just like one guy who became like that influential.
Mm-hmm.
Became like the biggest movie star in the world, and he's like from Austria, and he like can't speak English like at all, or he can't.
Well,
there's like a joke that says like, why is it that everyone can do an impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but Arnold Schwarzenegger can't do an impression of someone doing an American accent? But yeah, he like can't speak English well, and he's like the biggest like action star to like ever live.
Yeah.
And did it in a relatively short amount of time.
I love the guy. Growing up, he was like he seemed very influential. Like he was the governor of California.
Yeah, he did that for a
little bit. And the way he talked, I didn't understand. I don't know what Austrian accents sound like.
It's just German. It's like kind of a Dutch accent.
But just like out of context, which it always was. Like his voice was never in context. It was just, here's this guy that sounds like this.
Yeah.
I guess it never really registered to me that he had an accent, just that he talked that way.
Yeah. That's sort of the weird thing about it. And I'm sure that has to do with us just being young when he was already like a mega movie star. But even like the earlier movies, you know, they don't really address the fact that he sounds like that. In Jingle All the Way, one of my favorite movies, his name is like Howard. In fucking Kindergarten Cop, he has also just like a super like American name. It's like Joe. Just no one ever questions like how this man is like extremely hulking, first of all, but also like he sounds like he's not from this country at all. But it's sort of in universe in every movie that he's just some American guy.
That's funny. It makes me want to go through his filmography and just to see if any of them like stand out as being like really weird. I'm like, is there one where he's just like playing like an FBI agent? He's like, I am red-blooded American.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair number of his movies are like that. But I agree. I'm a big Arnold fan.
This is one of the earliest movies of his that I've seen. So really? He's much younger than I'm used to.
He's still like, I mean, this is 90s. So this is like post a lot of Schwarzenegger stuff at this point. Because before this was like Terminator. When did T2 come out? Terminator 2 came out 91. So the year after this. That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Arnold is busy this year.
Would you do the recall procedure yourself?
Would I do the recall procedure? Yeah, absolutely. I have always said that I was a blue pill person. And I think that this is the same exercise, but temporary. So it's even better than the blue pill thing, right? Is that you can recall. It sounds like it's just, you know, it's a dream, you know, it's only limited by your imagination, but you have total control, and like you can set basically a game save at the beginning of your dream, and you pay like 300 credits to do so. So
that's like, yeah, that's pretty like reasonable, honestly.
It's the best VR experience that you could imagine. And
you think it's real while it's happening?
That's the implication, yeah.
I mean, that's how it works for Arnold, like where he, you know, he thinks he's married to Sharon Stone.
Right.
But I was a bit confused because they describe it in the movie as implanting a memory.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't know if that meant that like you never get to really experience it firsthand. You just like go to sleep and wake up and you're like, yeah, I went to Fiji last summer.
Yeah.
And you have like some shit, like some shaky memories to go along with it. But I wasn't sure if you ever got to actually experience it, like in your mind.
Well, that's like you're just sort of like breaking down what consciousness is now, because like, are we experiencing anything in real time, or are you just remembering that you experience something? Like that's.
I mean, I'm here in real time now. I can't speak to any.
But are you
past memories?
Are you just remembering though? Are you just remembering like what happened like 5 seconds ago, or are you actually doing something?
I'm in the now.
See, you don't know. You just don't know.
I just wondered if it was like, because if you don't get to experience it, if you just wake up from the procedure with memories, that's way lamer.
So like the difference being, if we accept that we do experience things in real time, that it is like a dream, and that you don't wake up from a dream and like you just remember it. You just, at least to your own experience, you have like a period of time that passes where you experience the thing. Like you experience a dream and then you remember it. You don't just remember a dream.
Well, what I'm saying is that it may just be like an implanted memory that, like, I'm not saying that you have to dream it at all. Like I'm picturing right now just like going under anesthesia, and like, you know how you wake up immediately afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So just that happens, and a memory has been implanted.
Yeah, the memory implant, they refer to that as what happened with his marriage. The recall thing, it seems like they're implying that is like an experience. It's a VR experience.
Yeah. I guess that does clear it up for me, because like, yeah, the wife thing is a recall. Sorry, is like an implanted memory, an implanted fake memory, because they confirm in the movie that she's only been doing it for a couple of weeks, but the guy remembers a whole life. So there's been like a rewriting of memories there.
Yeah, I mean that's what. Do you ever seen The Sixth Day? That's like a later Arnie movie. It's about clones. You've not seen it?
Nope.
That one's really interesting. It's like, I think, pretty low fare Arnold Schwarzenegger, but like lots of fun. The idea is in that movie that someone makes a clone of Arnold without his consent. And so there's a big portion of the movie where he's trying to figure out if he's the clone of himself or if the other guy is, because they both are experiencing the world as if they're the original guy, despite one of them having like artificially implanted memories. So functionally, there's like no difference between them. And then that's just, it's funny. The movie is like dealing with like a deeper question of consciousness, but it's just a stupid like 90s action movie. There's like no exploration of that question in like a fun way.
Oh yeah, it's just,
and then
like
you just find out who the clone is at the end. Like you don't. It's like very conclusive. It's like,
oh, that's funny. That guy's the real guy. They shoot the other one. They're like, with no qualms.
Yeah. That one. I have another philosophical question for you. This probably doesn't apply to you as much because you don't have a pet. But in that movie, there is a service where you can clone your pet if your pet dies, whether prematurely or just of natural causes. You know, you can just clone your pet, have the exact same dog.
I've heard of this in real life.
I think, I was going to say, I think it's a real thing now.
Yeah.
I think it was more sci-fi when that movie came out. But would you do that? Like, would you clone your dog?
Oh, yeah. That's a good question. You know, I have a memory that's brought up of something that I either read or watched, but it's a very cool related story. Fiction. Or maybe it was real. I like literally don't remember where this is from. It feels like an implanted memory.
There you go, dude.
But the story is of like this farmer, and it's their horses or cattle, bulls. I'm just going to say bull. And like, it's this prized bull, like very valuable, great physical characteristics, whatever it is. And it dies. And so the farmer like has the clone made of it and raises it. And, huge emotional connection from like the farmer to the bull. Like they were best friends or whatever. Like, the kind of person that would like really personify an animal, like, and not that animals don't have personality or whatever, but like, you know, really getting into it.
Yeah.
And just thinking that this clone was going to be the same person, the same being. Right. And this might have been This American Life, but it wasn't. It was like a different soul in that thing, and it didn't act in the same way. And I think it might have like injured the farmer, and it was very like difficult for the farmer to kind of come to terms with that. Like it felt like he was being betrayed by this friend, but also like he's struggling with the fact that it's not the same one.
That's fascinating, and I think that I might be in the same boat if I had decided to clone my dog.
Yeah, it might be weird because it would bring up those questions.
I think ultimately that like in my state of emotional vulnerability, assuming that like, you know, the dog died and I miss the dog and I love my dog, so I'm certain that if there was an opportunity for me to resurrect them in some way, that I would be so helpless to just say yes, and then ultimately like disappointed probably from whatever the result was. But there's another part of me that also just thinks that like animals like memories and like personalities are much like baser than ours, and there's like less risk of them deviating from whatever that particular like set of circumstances and DNA created in the dog. I have more confidence that like a simple cloning procedure could replicate that versus like a human.
Sure.
Who's much more delicate. Would you do the recall? Let's assume that it is a VR experience. You get to experience it, whatever that means. You would do it.
Yeah, there were some cool simulations. There was a secret agent one, of course, but there was like, I think they're implying that there was like just straight up ones like you can go and just like do debauchery.
Yeah.
Just all the sex you want, just anything.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
Not that I'm interested in it personally. I think anybody that would say something like, "Whoa, why not?" you know, is morally dubious and
dubious,
morally suspect. But yeah, I'd do it.
I wonder if they're like, if you can do like supernatural stuff. I can't remember if that came across in the movie. Like, do you think could I enter into a recall that was like where I could be Superman or God?
I think so. I don't know if you're limited to what they have prepared or not.
I mean, I guess it's just like a video game at that point.
Yeah, it could be anything.
It just doesn't seem like. I mean, you can do that shit in your dreams, so why wouldn't you be able to do it at recall?
I came across a scene in the beginning where they're watching the TV on the wall. It's just like a single panel. It's the news, and then Sharon Stone like changes the channel to the nature channel, and like the two squares next to it turn on, and it's like a super like widescreen, whole wall TV. That's so cool. I bet that just blew people's minds.
Sort of similar to your theory about it being a simulation because it's really over the top. Is something similar is going on in Starship Troopers. There's like a theory or a take on it that the entirety of Starship Troopers is like an ad or like a documentary or something, because they have those, you know, those like breaks in between the movie where it's like, would you like to know more? And they like say some facts about the society. And that movie is transparently, it's supposed to be this like Verhoeven like cast the people in Starship Troopers because they look like Barbie and Ken dolls. They look like the most beautiful like fake people. And he purposely cast that main dude because he thought he was a really bad actor, so that like enhanced the whole idea of it being like false and like just a big performance. And Total Recall, there's like similar vibes. Like everything is so over the top, and so it feels like it could be some sort of other thing, like a recall memory might be. And then similar to the main character in Starship Troopers, Arnold Schwarzenegger is sort of this like completely like unrealistic looking person that like his whole presence in the movie, it might be one of the few cases where the movie is acknowledging it, but it can go both ways, you know, because he might look like that because the whole movie is this weird recall thing, or he might look like that because he really is a secret agent and he wouldn't fit in. There's that scene like in the beginning where he's like on the construction site and he's working like the jackhammer,
where he's just really jiggling.
Jiggling. Yes.
His muscles are just like...
He's just on a construction site, and he's supposed to be just some like regular dude, but he's clearly like the strongest man alive in this scene. Like,
there's a scene in Conan the Barbarian, which he's also in.
I think I saw that when I was a kid, but it's been a long time. But I know
it's also for me. It's also a kid memory. But there's a scene in the beginning where, like, I think he's a slave. I think he starts out, and everybody's like doing the slave labor, just lifting rocks, very simple kind of labor, and he's like super buff, and he's like lifting way more rocks than anybody else. Everybody else is like very thin, and
yeah, it doesn't make any sense, right? It's like, why are you that huge if you're just like a construction worker or a slave or that?
In my mind, I was like, oh, it's because he's working out all the time. But then I'm like, well, he's not getting fed.
Well, so is everyone else by that logic. Everyone should be
the only thing I could
buff.
think of. I think that everybody gave their food to Arnold so that he could become like the one strongest.
Yeah, develop a champion. That's an interesting strategy. If you ever find yourself in sort of a captive situation, you like pool your food to one guy so he can get bigger than everyone else and free everyone.
Yeah,
you create your messiah with gruel. What a fun thought.
So is this guy like with the government? You know, the bad people?
It's the agency, yeah. That's what it goes on to say, at least.
So this must be like another... Right. So he must not be a real construction worker guy. His friend.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Just another implanted
memory, or someone to keep an eye on him. What did I think of what?
The turban. The wrapping the wet towel around his head.
It's pretty funny. It's very like... I wanted to point this out, but on the turban thing, I think it's deliberately supposed to kind of look funny. It looks very like tinfoil hat kind of conspiracy theorist. On Mars, Quaid evades Richard and, following a note from Hauser, travels to Venusville, a district populated by humans and those mutated by air pollution and radiation. He meets Melina, the woman from his dreams, who knows he is Hauser and believes he is still working for Cohagen. In his hotel room, Quaid is confronted by Laurie and Dr. Edgar Edmar, believing he is real, kills him. Quaid is captured by Richard's men, but Melina rescues him and Quaid kills Laurie. The pair escape with taxi driver Benny to Venusville.
Some good scenes here. That taxi driver was a favorite of mine.
Pretty standout, like, in my memory of this movie. It feels like it's something, like I've seen it in other things, too. Just kind of an uncanny robot taxi driver.
Oh, I'm talking about the human taxi driver.
Oh, not the animatronic one. That's maybe earlier in the movie. Yeah, the taxi driver, I got 5 kids to feed guy.
It's funny.
Who's also a mutant.
This is like a contemporary issue. The automated versus like taxi driver interests. You know, they're head to head in conflict, and so we had a little bit of that in this movie, where Arnold like asked him like, why wouldn't I just take the robot? And he says, I have 5 mouths to feed.
I think it was a competition between him and another taxi driver. They're sort of like, but maybe there was another automated one, but it was on Mars. I think that's the difference. The robot one, taxi drivers on Earth, and then the human ones are on Mars, and then when you get off the space shuttle, all the taxi drivers like swarm you, like salespeople. They're like, "Take my cab, like what happens in other countries."
Like happened to me when I went to Mexico in Cancun.
Oh yeah,
in the Yucatan.
Yeah, I forgot that you did that. What happened? Like someone just a lot of taxis, or?
Yeah, just like you get out of the airport and it's like a whole scene. There's like vendors, and it's like tourism is just the lifeblood of that community. It's like we're the cash cow.
Yeah.
And you get treated so nice.
Yeah.
Because of it.
I remember having that experience when I went to Cancun. It was like not hard to get a ride at all. And then
it saved me because when I had to leave to come back from the trip and get to the airport at like a terrible time, like at middle of the night, like 3-4 a.m. or something, and I tried Uber and I couldn't. It wouldn't get anybody for me.
Oh, does Uber not operate internationally?
They operate. They do.
Oh,
but it turns out it's not the most common thing there because they have such a strong.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of people that'll do it outside of Uber.
Mm-hmm.
Like the main thing there, it seems like, is that kind of like small business style. People will just get their cards to different businesses, like a hotel, and then the hotel has like a Rolodex of cards, and if anybody needs a ride, they'll call.
Yeah,
like using those.
Sounds better, honestly.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot better.
And that's what saved me. Like I was able to call somebody, and they were awake driving. And they picked me up. And like they have their own they have like Telegram channels or like WhatsApp groups of all these taxi drivers. And so they're able to coordinate among themselves. Like I saw, like while we were getting a ride, he was getting a phone call, our driver. And obviously he was busy with us. So I saw him like text and call other people and like got that person taken care of. So it's like a whole like self-assembling economy.
Yeah. Like that. That guy turns out to be a mutant, the taxi driver. Do you remember that? He has a third arm.
Oh, that's right. And then he turns on them at the end.
Yeah.
Dies.
Yeah. Do you feel like this guy is sort of like a black stereotype from like 80s movies? Like kind of Jim Crow, funny, like person of color, subordinate character.
Sure.
Seems like that's sort of like the archetype that he's fulfilling. And he turns out to be a bad guy,
sure.
So that sucks.
I looked it up, and it's not a third arm. It's just like that one of his arms has like, it's like this weird ET arm that like folds out, and he just has like a fake regular looking hand that attaches to it.
On his like elbow or something, right? Because his real arm is like twice as long.
There might even be like a second joint in there, like a second elbow. Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. And it's like this, he has like a see-through part in his arm.
Yeah.
Like in the middle. Great special effects.
The mutants lead them to a hidden rebel base where Quaid meets their leader, Quato, a mutant growing out of the abdomen of his brother, George. Quato psychically reads Quaid's mind, learning that Cohagen is hiding a 500,000-year-old alien reactor built into a mountain that once activated produces breathable air but could also destroy all turbinium, fake element, ending Cohagen's monopoly over both resources. Benny shoots George. Cohagen's forces attack the base, killing the rebels. Quato implores Quaid to start the reactor before Richter executes him. Cohagen disables Venusville's air supply to slowly suffocate the remaining inhabitants.
What a terrible way to die. Just like running out of air.
Open your mind. Open your mind.
So good. And he unlocks his memories, I guess.
Yeah. You kind of forget that like he's like a secret agent. Like his alternate like identity is a secret agent. But that identity is like a bad guy. Remember like the big reveal at the end that like Schwarzenegger comes back up on the screen and he's like, I'm you and I'm actually like evil. And there's that like,
he was so mean. He's like, haha, I tricked you. He's like really over the top about it.
It's really like something a crazy person would do, right? Like I'm going to record this video that I'm going to watch later and I'm like making fun of myself. Really weird. And meta.
It's like I'll be so pure and moral, and I'm just like totally gonna fuck with myself and betray that me. And I'm gonna laugh when it happens. I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm like evil laughing.
Yeah. But what's really funny to me is like this frame right here. Like he goes through the whole monologue explaining like what the whole master plan was, and then like Cohagen is just like standing off frame, like waiting to do the big reveal. Like they sort of produced the video a little bit, anticipating this like moment where they'd show it to Quaid. They'd be like, and then like we should zoom the camera out, and then you'll just like walk in, and then he'll like understand what's going on.
And they're having a blast.
Yeah.
Look at their smiles. It's like
they're like really satisfied with like punking him.
It's like slow Friday office energy. They're like, let's fuck around.
Yeah. We didn't talk about the 3 boob lady.
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
Bring it up. What's your thoughts on that? What do you think of that? What do you think about that?
Look at that stuff, man. Oh,
just like two horny guys trying to pretend that they're not. We're just like, what'd you think of those 3 boobs? It was kind of interesting.
It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's like pretty iconic. I don't think it was meant to be iconic, but it kind of turned out to be. Because I think that the 3 boob lady is in the remake. I've never seen the remake, but I'm pretty certain that she's in there.
Ah.
It's the one with Colin Farrell. Did you ever see that or hear about it?
No, I found out about it after watching this.
I never saw it.
I got an article here from the New York Post. Meet the 3-boobed woman. And
it's a real person?
Yeah, it looks like it. I'm looking at some pictures here. Woman has spent $20,000 on surgery to get a 3rd breast.
Wow, so it's artificial. Was it related to Total Recall, you think? This woman like see Total Recall and she's like, that's the goal. That's what I want to do.
Let's see. Oh, here's something interesting. A line says, last month she posted a YouTube video of herself in a bikini while Radiohead's Creep plays in the background.
Interesting.
And I'm watching that video, and that's what it is.
Verified. Man, I saw a clip the other day of like Tom York in some interview where he was just like, it was like an old one. And he's like, Creep is about, he says in his accent, Creep's about, and then he just sort of like spaces off and he's like, well, that thought's gone.
That's funny. This woman says, my whole dream is to get this show on MTV, she said. I'm dumping every penny I have into this. If this doesn't work, I'm through.
Man.
I got it because I wanted to make myself unattractive to men because I don't want to date anymore.
That's what it says?
My mom ran out the door. She won't talk to me. She won't let my sister talk to me. My dad, he really isn't happy.
He really isn't happy.
Oh, here we go. Total Recall. Some have criticized her. Others have described her as beautiful and commented that she reminds them of Total Recall.
There you go.
I don't think it's unattractive.
It doesn't sound like it's as unattractive. Like, I mean, the way that she says, like, I did this to make myself unattractive kind of sounds like Tommy Wiseau saying that he made The Room a comedy on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, did you mean that, or are you just playing along with the circumstances? Okay. Quaid and Melina are brought to Cohagen, who explains Hauser was a close friend who volunteered to become Quaid as an elaborate ruse to bypass the mutant's psychic abilities. I forgot about this. That's the whole reason.
Oh, that's the reason.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter, I guess, too much, really. Like, I don't think like the movie thinks it really matters.
No, I do.
The real plot of the movie doesn't really matter.
I do like how the sort of surface appearance of cleverness that is, though. I like if you were going to like infiltrate like psychic mutants, like rebel force, the best way to do it would just be like a guy who has no idea who he is doing it.
But the evil version of Arnold had a relationship with this dream woman?
Yeah, I think that she was like just a prostitute. That was my impression, that they had like just a regular sort of arrangement, but like no real, I don't know.
Because she's like straight up like in the resistance, I think. Like all the mutants are.
Right.
And seems like he already infiltrated the movement.
Maybe. Yeah. I hadn't really thought about that.
I don't even know if it's supposed to make sense.
Yeah.
Seems like Arnold could have just like worked that angle. Like he already had the in with the mutants.
Well, I think that maybe just like
not knowing who he was probably hurt him more than helped him.
Well, maybe he just hadn't made it far enough to where like he would encounter anybody who like would psychically sniff him out. Maybe
I guess
he was just getting it started. Maybe maybe getting involved with her was like a way to establish familiarity with her, so that like he ultimately could return and go. Because Arnold knows who she is, like from the very beginning. It's like the one thing that he retained from his former life.
Got it. But they don't know his real identity. Nobody does.
I think that's the idea. Yeah,
I see.
Quaid's recall visit had activated him earlier than planned, and Cohagen has been helping him to survive the oblivious Richter pursuit. Cohagen orders Hauser's memories to be restored and Quaid and Melina to be programmed as his subservient lover, but they manage to escape to the mines below the reactor. Benny and Richter Maybe it is. And his men attack them, but the pair outwits and kills all of them. I don't have much reaction to that part.
There's a whole alien angle.
Yeah,
all the underground stuff.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that yet. What'd you think about? That's like the one thing I always forget in this movie is that there's aliens, and that not only is there aliens, but like they existed like millions of years ago and built like this giant reactor on Mars.
I get this movie confused with there's another movie that's pretty old, where like the whole premise is that there's ancient alien civilization long dead on Mars.
I feel like
have you ever seen that picture of Mars where it's like this is a real thing, but there's like a land formation on Mars that looks like a face.
Yeah,
just like two circles, and
that's also
like,
in Starfield.
That thing.
Yeah, that thing.
Oh, cool. Nice. But that's in the movie.
It's
that's
about
so
Mars
stupid. I mean,
specifically. It's not like
yes.
Okay, there's lots of ancient alien stuff. One of my favorites is Alien versus Predator.
Nice. I do like that one. Or the World is Ancient Aliens because they were underground the whole time.
That's right. That one's cool. The Thing is technically Ancient Aliens. Remember that? The Thing?
Yeah. There's aliens in the movie. The Things are aliens.
The Thing is an alien that has been in the ice for like millions of years or whatever because they dig up its flying saucer. At the very beginning of the movie, I missed it. Like the first time I saw it, I just forgot about that. But at the very beginning, there's like a flying saucer they dig up in the ice. Cohagen awaits them in the reactor room, claiming that activating it will destroy the planet. He sets off an explosive, but Quaid throws it down a tunnel, creating a breach in the Martian surface. The explosive decompression blows Cohagen out of the surface where he suffocates and dies. Quaid activates the reactor before he and Molina are also blown out. The reactor melts the planet's ice core into gas that bursts out of the surface, forming a breathable atmosphere, saving Quaid, Molina, and the rest of the Mars population. As everyone beholds the now blue sky, there it is. Quaid momentarily wonders if everything was a dream before he and Molina kiss.
Oh, yeah. That was the blue sky. I remember that now at the end. But why did that person put the parenthetical there?
Because I don't remember. I was looking at that scene. When they said like he's getting marketed to go to Mars, and that should
no
feature
blue skies.
A blue sky. But I can't figure out where that's supposed to be or if it's even there.
I have a question. Can we establish that the part of the movie before he goes to the recall office to get the procedure done is like verifiably real world?
Sure, yeah.
Anything after that is suspect. Like it could be that it was all a dream after that, but before it's
yes. I think that that's a safe assumption.
Yeah, the wife exists, the coworker exists. They may or may not be agency operatives, but they're there.
Right. I mean, I'm sure you could extrapolate further, but like for the sake of just the text of the movie, I think that that's the right assumption. I really like this screen. The graph.
Oh wait, the graph. I wanted to read this because I missed it the first time. Fatalities versus years. Shuttle recall.
It's like the idea is that it's way safer to do recall than flying.
But there were some fatalities. They didn't increase, but they were there.
Yeah. Some fatalities, and the graph has no units on it, so there's no way to tell like how dramatically different they are.
The question is whether it's cumulative. So was there just like 10 fatalities on year 0, and so that's just a constant bar?
Or is it like one every year?
Yeah. Every year we lose a few. Why has shuttle become less and less safe over time? That's like the real question.
Higher density space travel, maybe, as Mars becomes newly colonized. That'd be my guess.
Fashion's pretty cool. Feels like a little unconventional. Like even his
it's just
his clothing here seems kind of normal, but it's a little bit cooler.
Yeah, it's just like little kind of near future. It's like for the 80s, near future. Or I guess the 90s in this case. But I always like the near future fashion stuff in movies because it's not like ultra sci-fi fashion like Star Wars or everything just looks weird and different. It kind of looks like what we wear, but just a little weirder. I remember that being a big thing with Her. Remember Her, the movie?
Oh yeah, love that movie.
We watched that together. He has like really high-waisted pants, and they kind of called it. That is kind of what Gen Z likes, is like pants that look like the pants that he wears in that movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. That one was like pretty accurate. It was like Gen Z from the waist down and millennial from the waist up. That character.
Yeah, that fashion in that movie was like really cool. We could learn more from it. Even I feel like we could, if we could move towards that exact aesthetic. Yeah.
What do you? I think I kind of agree with you, but I'm curious as to what your reasoning is for that.
It's my exact style. I've never watched a movie where every piece of clothing I would wear. That's a reference. I just did a reference to a sketch from that Tim Robinson show.
I think you should leave.
Yeah. The shirt sketch, the crazy pattern shirts. I've never been in a store before where every piece of clothing I would wear. That's my exact style. But yeah, that movie is my exact style.
Okay. I remember the whole aesthetic being pretty cool. I'm sure it has like a name, like a like near future punk or whatever. I don't remember feeling similar about the fashion, but it was also like it was very similar to the fashion of like the year that it came out, which was probably like 2015 or something, 2014.
Yeah, just like the iconic shirt from the movie, that color.
Yeah.
Great.
Nice and bright.
This is a kind of dress shirt that I prefer, where I don't know how to describe it, but the fabric feels like it's kind of thicker and heavier.
It's an Oxford shirt.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks like it's just some nice cotton button-up shirt.
The high-waisted pants.
Sure, remember his job?
It's like greeting cards or something?
Yeah.
Isn't that all it is? It's just writing greeting cards?
Right. But I don't know. They made it seem like it's a not uncommon thing in this world. Like it's like getting flowers. It's like, oh, I'll go to this service and get the custom greeting card. Or they're like, people use this guy for everything.
It's like it's not just writing greeting cards. It's that like someone commissions greeting cards for like
personalized.
Yeah, got it.
And he like knows about their lives. Like there's a scene where he's like straight up writing like a love note. Almost, this is what I remember, but like writing like a very personal love note with life details.
That's the whole idea, right? Is that he like has to like emulate this emotion that's sort of lacking in his own really lonely life. Like it's this nice like juxtaposition of the super lonely guy, but he like has to write things for people who are deeply in love.
Well cast too. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix just sells that person to me. Like he is that person.
Yeah. I mean, he's good at that in general. Do you remember what the computer looked like? What Scarlett Johansson's character looked like?
The computer itself, no.
I remember the operating system. It's like the same color palette that we're looking at here, like kind of pinkish red. But I was bringing up Windows 8 earlier because I feel like this was right at the renaissance of minimalist UX design with operating systems. So like when Windows 8 came out, it was all flat and sleek and it moved more like Macs did. And then I think the Windows Phone came out shortly after that. And then the idea of like cross device operating systems that could work on both, probably around when like Chromebooks were getting big too. So I just remember really liking the aesthetic of what you see on the screen because it mimicked like what was popular in UX at the time. And it's still like it's a little transcendent now because it doesn't look like any real operating system. It's just like its own movie thing.
Yeah, I like that.
Do you ever think it's weird when you see like computers in movies, in like a hacker movie or something, and there's like software that just like doesn't exist? I think of like when a character like opens like a dossier folder or something on a computer and it just like spits out these really like sci-fi looking like HUD sort of windows, and it's just like here's all the information about this character, and all of like the windows and the borders and the controls look super like sci-fi. They don't look like any real operating system in the world.
Yeah.
And like I get the idea that that's supposed to make it look cooler, but I feel like that's always just taken me out of movies. I think I generally don't like that. What do you think? Because I feel like this is something that you would pay attention to.
Well, I think if it's done badly, like I think it's probably done badly more often than not. But I think when it's done well, it can be very immersive if it looks like realistic and it looks like believable as a
and
functional. If it doesn't look like it's just like all gimmicky.
Her does it well, I think.
Yeah, it looks like a real computer system, and they have a lot of stuff like I don't know, watches and stuff. I forget what else, but they have a lot of technology in that movie. And it all felt believable.
Some of their tech is like pretty close to like what we have now. The one thing that I wish that we did adopt from that movie is the size of the phone. Do you remember that?
Were they big or?
No, they're small. They're like half the size of like a deck of cards. Think of like a cigarette case.
Ah, cool.
And they flip open. So we do have we went back to like the flip phone. So we're almost there. But that one, the phone in this movie, it looks more like a piece of jewelry than it does like an electronics thing. Like it looks like a fancy like cigarette holder from like the 60s.
Yeah,
and then
I wish we could have that aesthetic.
And then the earpiece that he wears is that's like the other component. It's like the main ways that he interacts with his phone is like an AirPod and like this little phone. And like I remember at the time when that movie came out that the size, an earpiece like being that size, like a wireless one, was definitely sci-fi. And now that's like pretty normal.
Really?
Yes.
In like 2014?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like inconceivable. Like it was definitely like coming down the road, but it was not like readily available at that time. That was like a weird piece of like fancy tech in that movie.
Great movie.
Anyways, let's wrap up this Total Recall. Stop talking about other movies. Last paragraph. Cohagen awaits them in the reactor control room, claiming that oh wait. No, I already read the last paragraph. Never mind. We've concluded the synopsis.
Bye.
And goodbye.
Good night.
What do you think about the reactor where it has that big switch? You know, and that's how you turn it on.
He did like that.
He does this thing with his hands because the aliens have 3 fingers, 3 big fingers. I like that little detail that you never see the aliens. You never even see like a depiction of them in any form, except for that one handprint thing. Like that's the only clue you have as to what the aliens look like. But I just think it's funny that it works. That if you just put your human hand in there and you just kind of roughly take up the space that's supposed to be there for an alien hand, it'll still work as intended.
My theory is that if you just like put your fist into it and just pushed, it would have worked. Like it's not that advanced of like an input device. It really is just like a button.
Which sort of like defeats. I mean, I guess like the way that it's shaped as the button, like there would be no reason for that if that's how it worked. But it does look cool, so maybe it's an aesthetic choice on the aliens part. It's sort of like
we should have that in real life, like a thing that has the shape of a hand, like negative shape of a hand, and you just put your hand in it.
Yeah, it reminds me of like, do you remember those novelty pedals for like cars? I think that Magic School Bus had one where it looks like a foot. Like you can swap out like a gas pedal that looks just like a foot.
Oh,
so
yes, I've seen this.
That what we're talking about with this alien hand button reminds me of that. Because if like an alien saw like the foot pedal foot, they would be like, this is specific to like human anatomy, and like you have to put like a human foot on this thing for it to work.
They're like, I'm a tentacle monster.
Yeah.
This isn't made for me. But yeah, loved the movie overall. I liked how goofy and not very serious it was. I just let it. I was just along for the ride, ultimately.
Yeah, man.
I'll give it 7 out of 10.
7 what?
7 numbers out of 10.
Numbers?
Yeah, I'm sidestepping the ranking system.
Okay.
Oh, another fun fact about the movie that I looked up. Well, I was looking up a little bit about the director's life. Verhoeven. Found out that he was like educated as a physicist and mathematician. In school, he went like a little bit past just a bachelor's degree. I'm not exactly sure how they do it over there. He's like from the Netherlands, and actually he's super old, and so actually when he was alive, he was like, I don't know, a handful of years old. He has memories of the fact that his childhood home was in the Netherlands during World War II. And it was during the time that the Nazis had occupied it. And actually, like, he lived really close to like where they were doing V2 rocket launches.
That's nuts.
And it says that
he's from Amsterdam, was born in 1938.
Yeah.
So yeah,
isn't that crazy?
Right then.
So he was like 6 or something. So that's right on the cusp.
Okay, so I give Total Recall 10 out of 10 Quados.
Nice.
Sure. This movie like absolutely fucking rocks. Like I remember watching it as a kid and just like loving the dumb Arnold Schwarzenegger action. And now as an adult, I'm like trying to figure it out. But like I can do that and look at the woman with 3 boobs at the same time. Like it does like both things for me. Activates my 8 brain and my other one. Big fan. Thanks for listening. Film Hole is produced by just us, myself and Raul. Our music is by Double U. That's _ the word double and 2 U's. Get Film Hole wherever you listen to podcasts. If you like it, rate it. If you hate it, maybe don't. Thanks again. See you next time.